Welcome. Welcome to the Fall 2021 budget presentation. My name is Belinda Munoz. I am the chair of the Staff Assembly Executive Committee. You will all be muted as you come in. So we'd like to, just to ensure that we get the full presentation, we're going to have a question and answer portion of it after the presentation. So we ask that you maintain muted. And enter any questions that you might have in the chat. And we're going to do our very best to get through all of the questions. Whatever questions we are not able to get to today, we will pull those questions, get some answers for you, and put them on our website. So again, thank you all for being with us this afternoon. Thank you to Vice President for Administration and Chief Financial Officer, Debbie A. Stone, for being here with us. Interim Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs, Dr. Fu, for being with us today. And of course, President Saul Jimenez Sandoval for being with us this afternoon. I am going to be turning this over to Deborah Reba, who I would love to share. She is the new Vice Chair for the Staff Assembly Executive Committee. So she will be moderating this afternoon's presentation. So thank you all for being with us again. And Deborah, I'll go ahead and turn it on over to you. Oh, you're muted.
That does help. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I will be very short and turn the presentation over to Debbie. We will, as Belinda mentioned, have questions and answers at the end of the presentation. We are in a regular meeting session, so we will be using the chat for our questions. Please do keep the questions focused on the budget only, as that is what we are discussing today. And please do not do, unfortunately today, do not do a lot of chit chat in the chat. Please let's focus just on what we might have as questions. So those of us who are sifting through those questions to make sure that we're addressing everything can get to them. Thank you very much. Debbie, please begin as you can.
And I will double check with the president, but I think he might be having just a technology issue with the microphone, because I'd like him to maybe do any introductory remarks, but I'll just double check. No, okay. All right, so we'll come back to that as we adjust here. And I just want to double check. Okay, and Pam is unable to unmute. Okay. So if we could allow Pam to be able to, because sometimes there'll be some questions. Oh, and the president as well. Maybe that was the issue. Sorry.
Yes, doing it now.
Okay. Thank you all for being patient. Sir. Just let me know, Chris, when.
Go ahead and please try it now.
Okay, that works. So Chris, also the chat is disabled. I was not able to type into the chat that I was disabled in both the chat and the mute button. So it might be the same with the rest of the participants. So I just want to open it up by saying that we're very pleased to present this to you. This is a transparent process. The budget is our budget collectively. And if you have any questions, we are more than glad and pleased to answer any of these. And I know that Vice President Ason is very capable of presenting this, and I'm very thankful for all the work you put into this. So please.
Thank you, President. And I also want to thank our budget manager, Pam Lewis, for her help in putting this together, and she'll be assisting too, as if there are questions that come up that I cannot answer. So it's great. First of all, it's great to see everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time this afternoon to join. And I'll be screen sharing the presentation that we will also provide to the Staff Assembly so that they will have a copy of it as well, if anyone would like a copy of it after the meeting. Hopefully everyone can see that okay. All right.
Yes.
So we'll go ahead and get started. And thank you. I know some of you may have seen this presentation, some of our department chairs possibly at our Academic Senate meeting recently, but we really appreciate this opportunity from Staff Assembly to be able to share this information. As the president said, it's a very transparent process, And we have in the past been able to have a similar format and presentation with the staff assembly. So we welcome your questions as we go through the presentation, and we'll take those at the end. This slide really, I think, helps to identify the budget cycle and, of course, where we are right now in looking at the 22-23 budget year. So at the Board of Trustees meeting earlier this month, which was, I think, the first in-person meeting since the pandemic, the trustees did approve and adopt the 22-23 budget that'll be submitted to the governor. And then in January, the governor's budget is submitted to the legislature. So that's usually kind of in that first week, second week in January. And I know Michael Lukens, our colleague here, tracks that very closely as it goes through, starts to go through the process with the legislature and the governor. And then in February, the Legislative Analyst's Office does their analysis of the CSU budget. And then in May, we call the kind of the governor's May revise is what is the next version of the governor's budget after January. And between January and May, there is considerable advocacy that system-wide, the CSU and our governmental relations and our students and our alumni and other groups do a lot of advocacy work with Sacramento and with our legislature and with the governor, and of course, the leadership of our Chancellor Castro. This is, the president can add to this, but as we were in a call yesterday, all of the system-wide chief financial officers, and they're defining next year's budget as the biggest and boldest ask that the CSU has made to the state, and especially given where revenues are looking and surplus for the state. It's going to be the biggest and boldest ask that the CSU has made, which is good news. There's, of course, as we know, there is a lot of need, and this year was a better budget, of course, than 2021, but hopefully looking ahead to 22-23. And then in June, the state budget gets finalized, of which the CSU budget is finalized. And then usually around in mid-July is when we will actually get our campus budget allocation coming from the CSU budget. So this chart helps to really just kind of indicate how the fund flow works from the state to the CSU and then to the campus. And then working closely, of course, with our budget team, cabinet, and with the president, we look at the level A allocation. So level A is the allocation that goes to each divisional area. And then each division has a level B allocation to their, either for academic affairs, it goes to the colleges and schools. And for the other administrative areas goes to our respective departments. And I'll use admin and finance as just an example. So level B to the departments would include, facilities, HR, public safety. So that's how the level B allocation works after each division receives their level A allocation. The percentages that you see there, the percentages of allocation of any new incremental funding that might be received as part of our annual budget. This year, we did not receive any new incremental funding or enrollment funding. And as we go through the presentation, we will share what we did receive, what's very important for our graduation initiative, but those have specific purposes and uses for how the GI 2025 allocations are to be used. But when there are years, and hopefully next year will be one of those years when there is new incremental funding available, this is how the new funding is allocated percentage-wise to each division and area. As a comparison, we like to provide this chart. So of course, we knew 2021 was a very difficult year, one we hope not to have to repeat as compared to 1920. So you see, roughly the 16 million, of course, which was our gross reduction of our budget for 2021. And so you could see that by our expenditures and how those were expended by type of expenditure. Salaries was a little bit more in 2021, but you'll see especially in operating, where we took probably the largest reduction across the board, campus-wide, and benefits went up slightly. But overall, about 16 million less of expense as compared to 1920. So our 21-22 budget, which is this year's budget. And so the first column is the overall CSU budget for the whole CSU system. So for all 23 campuses plus the chancellor's office. And then you'll have our campus column. So overall, our budget increased by 17.2 million. And you can see how that breaks out, but we always start with the 2021 budget and then what has been added to it. So the revised base budget for 2021 was 106, almost 167 million. And again, this is general fund. And then the increase of 17.2 for a total general fund budget of 183,812,000. And then we also generate tuition and fees, which is added at 147.2 million for an overall operating budget for 21-22 of 331 million. The expenditure increase or additional allocation, because they synonymous there, if you will, came to us. We did have an overall, there were some system-wide priorities. So there was a holdback of 7.7 million from the chancellor's office. That's about a 3% holdback, and every campus had that happen. So even though our budget was restored, the 16 million, it was reduced by the 7.7. We did get 1.2 million to help towards employer health premiums. That does not cover our annual increase, but it's a contribution towards the premium increase. A slight compensation adjustment that is primarily due to minimum wage. And Pam can correct me, but I think it may have our SUPA increase that was negotiated as well in that compensation adjustment.
That's what it's for, and minimum wage.
Thank you, Pam. At 765,000 to address the AB 1460, the ethnic studies requirements. So those funds will be going to academic affairs to support those either additional courses that are required or additional faculty that may need to be hired to support that requirement. You'll see the restoration of our general fund increase that I referenced earlier, the 16.6. Which again, very appreciative for. And then additional permanent base funding to support our graduation initiative, otherwise known as GI 2025, of 8.3 million. And we'll look at that a little bit, break that down in a little bit further in the presentation. And then on our state university grants, which is part of our financial aid program, it's not our only fund source for financial aid. It was reduced by 2.1 million. And part of that is just based upon the calculation of our students that would qualify for financial aid. So there was a 5% redistribution or reduction system-wide that came to us, but we still have a very healthy SUG program, and working with Dr. Lee and Kelly Russell and the team there do a great job, but there was a slight decrease in that this year. And I think we had that decrease in 2021 as well, Pam. A little bit, a few of the highlights from the CSU budget. Again, the 299 million restoration, huge. System-wide priorities of 185.9, which includes our GI 2025, 30 million in student basic needs and mental health. And then there was 25 million allocated to our sister campus up in Humboldt as they transition to become a Polytechnic Institute, similar to Cal Poly SLO and Cal Poly Pomona. There were also some one-time system-wide funds, meaning they are not in the permanent base budget, that they're one-time for this year. 325 million for deferred maintenance, 433 million, yes, 433 million to Humboldt, again, as part of their facility renovation and new construction, again, as part of the requirements of being a Polytechnic institution. Then there were about 171 million of various kind of, I'll say, physical and programmatic enhancements for some of our sister campuses that came from their, I'll say, their local legislative folks and what we kind of almost call earmarks from their respective delegations. And I know the chancellor's office is going to try to coordinate that a little bit more closely this year. I think our former colleague, Larry Salinas, and our executive vice chancellor, Steve Relier, are working on a group there so that that is a little bit more coordinated this year, rather than having those individual asks going to the governor. And then there was 2 million that is set aside for, and I know this is very important, and we talked a little bit about this at one of our prior forums, that the CSU has hired a consultant who will be doing an evaluation of all of the CSU staff salary structures and the impact of the salary inversion. And I know that's a very important topic for our staff and for our campus here, that we are very supportive of the chancellor's office doing this study, and it's being done in collaboration with our unions as well. So we appreciate that collaborative effort. And there'll be more to come on that, but it's anticipated that that study will be completed in spring of 22. Of the 325 million of deferred maintenance, we did receive about, and Tina can correct me, but I think it's about 9 million. And a lot of that is going towards some of our HVAC building systems needs, as well as fire alarms and other critical infrastructure that we have on the campus. So as you see, we have a lot of construction activity going on right now. And just want to again give a shout out to our facilities team for all of their efforts, because we have a lot going on, and for all of our campus partners who help with all of the logistics associated with our construction projects. We did receive some one-time funds for our campus, 1.8 million of emergency financial assistance grants for our low-income students. So again, thank you to Vice President Kuhn and Dr. Lee and their team. They will be working to get those funds out to our students, because these are one-time funds that need to be spent this fiscal year. And this is in addition to our HERF financial assistance grants that will also be awarded again next spring. 500,000 in faculty professional development. Had a meeting today with Provost Fu and Dr. Azam on how those funds will be utilized in supporting our faculty and training efforts. And these are specifically have to be used for that purpose. That's how these funds came to us as part of the budget language. And then 2.5 million to support enrollment funding in support of GI 2025, which will also be going to academic affairs. And all of these expenditures and priorities align with the system-wide priorities for GI 2025 that were recently announced by Chancellor Castro. And I may pause there, President. Is there anything you would like to add on the GI 2025?
Yeah, the GI 2025 is really focused on this notion of student success, and how is it that we can help our students complete their degrees in a timely manner more than anything. And it's divided into these two groups that Debbie just presented to you right now. The first group is academic affairs, and then the second group is student affairs. And the idea there is that students get a sense of belonging through the student affairs component, through clubs and organizations, and also the services that we offer. But the other part would be the academic success in the classroom allows them to visualize life after the university. And then these two components then are sort of like the magic formula for student success. These specific monies, like Debbie stated right now, are very specific, meaning that they are already prescribed to the university within these two pockets of money. So there's not much that we can do with these as far as moving money around.
Thank you, President Mena-Sandoval.
Thank you, Vice President Easton.
This chart, because we do have, in addition to what is allocated to each of our university divisions as part of the Level A process, we also have centrally managed funds. And this chart, and Pam and her team track this very closely, the balance as of 6/30/21. And then you will see the funds that were allocated as part of the 21-22 budget. And then the balance, the starting balance as of July 1st. And then there are expenditures and allocations that happen from these funds to some of the other divisional funds. For example, I'll kind of use so I'll use an example. If we have expenditures to go against some of these, then the funds are transferred to those areas once those approvals are made. Our tuition reserve is really our only unrestricted reserve. That one is showing a $7 million balance, but that's the starting balance. So the annual allocations that go against the tuition reserve have not happened yet, but that really is our only unrestricted reserve. And fortunately, we were able to allocate some of our HERF institutional funds to recover some of the lost revenue that we lost in 2021 from the state allocation. And that really helped to shore up the tuition reserve. Otherwise, that balance would be significantly lower. But as you could see, the restoration of the general fund is that net of 9.2, which was the difference between roughly the 16 million that was restored, less the 7 million that was retained by the Chancellor's Office for system-wide priorities. We did also have a tuition adjustment of approximately, well, 2 million, 1,999,000. And that has to do with how the Chancellor's Office looks at our tuition revenues. And if we are budgeting higher than what we're actually bringing in, then that adjustment is made the subsequent year. So there was a tuition adjustment as well And then, of course, our utilities budget is very important as we look ahead to our central plant project. And as we start, when the project is completed and we have to begin those availability payments. And so we will be looking as we move forward, especially with the 22-23 budget, how we start to ensure that we have that permanent base funding to accommodate that availability payment once that project is completed. And fortunately, we did get some additional operating support for those early years for the availability payment for our central plant project. So big thanks to Chancellor Castro at the time, who helped to advocate for that with the Chancellor's office. Our benefits pool is sitting at approximately 87.7 million. Again, this is the starting balance, but this is the first year where we have permanent base funding to fully cover our benefit expense. And again, this has been a work over the last 5 to 6 years to ensure that our benefits pool can accommodate the benefits expense and projected increase of the premiums that we experience each year. We know there are a lot of recruitments underway, which is a good thing. Our HR team and benefits team have just been working diligently to try to get these recruitments posted and through the process. And I just want to thank everyone for the patience. But I think we have, close to 85 or 90 recruitments going on right now campus wide, which is a good thing, but they're all hitting at the same time. So our HR team is doing a great job and doing the best they can, and we appreciate your patience. We will get there. The good news is they're in the pipeline. So there will be some additional benefit expense this year for when some of those positions, and most of those are positions that we lost in 2021, that budgetarily each division has made those decisions on which ones we're able to bring back, which has been really important. The tuition reserve, as mentioned, these are the allocations that will go against the tuition reserve. So you see the level A base budget. We anticipate a difference in tuition reserve versus what we budgeted versus actual. And some of that is primarily due to fewer non-resident students, because the tuition revenue earned on non-resident students is significantly higher, of course, than our resident students. So that's some of what, budget versus actual, and that's a projection. So hopefully we'll do better than that in the spring, but we have to watch that really closely. So overall, including the level A plus all of these adjustments, the tuition reserve will have a starting balance of 10.8 with expenditures of $6,450,000 that will go to academic affairs, to some infrastructure, deferred maintenance, athletics, and then some miscellaneous support to some of our various divisions that are more campus-wide expenditures. So the projected carry forward balance at the end of the fiscal year at 6/30/22 is 4.3 million. And that is a number we watch very closely. And hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more into the tuition reserve this year, depending upon how we do at year end. Benefit expenditures, again, the benefits balance is approximately 87 million. And then this is how the projected expense of about 83.5. So the benefits pool right now, and again, thanks to Pam and her good work on this over the years, we've been able to ensure that not just one-time money, but permanent base recurring dollars are funding and fueling this benefits pool to cover the additional premium increases, as well as the backfilling of some of our positions. Pam, is there anything you'd like to add to this?
No, you're exactly correct.
So GI 2025, in dating back to when we first received permanent base funding for this very important initiative in 15-16, we do track how it's been allocated to each of our divisional areas. The majority has gone, of course, appropriately so, to academic affairs and to student affairs, and our colleagues there and our student success team that work collaboratively together in ensuring we have the resources and services and support and courses, whether it be supplemental instruction or additional advisors or tutors, whatever those initiatives and success factors are being factored into how these funds are being utilized. Summer session, winter session, all of those different support to help, again, our students graduate on time and to also ensure that they are successful in their coursework. As part of the 21-22 allocation that we received of 8.3 million, this is permanent base funding. Approximately 1.8 million will be going to student affairs because this was specific as part of our budget language, 11% to be used for basic needs and 11% for additional student mental health services. So we are working with Vice President Kuhn and her team. They are finalizing their budget for the plan for initiatives, as well as additional counselors and case managers and support for our students in these two areas. And this is going to be hugely important, especially for our Student Health and Counseling Center to be able to add more. And again, I want to thank Belinda for being one of the co-chairs of the task force and the work that the task force is doing collaboratively. And we know these services are so important for our students, and we need more counselors, we need more case managers, and these funds will help to make that happen. So the preliminary, the allocation to each of the divisions is listed below, but that does not include the 8.3 million, and those allocations will hopefully be finalized this week. I had a chance to meet with the provost this morning and reviewed their proposal, and also a portion will be going to technology services to help support some of the software and technology needs that this year we were able to support with HERF funds, but HERF funds will go away as of May of 22. So ensuring that those technology initiatives, especially that are supporting classroom instruction and hybrid instruction, high flex classrooms and the hybrid classes, that we have that technology going forward to continue to support that effort. Then we develop, again, this has some history that we do track, the level A allocations and overview for each of the divisional areas. So academic affairs, and as you can see, the GI 2025 is TBD, but the majority of the GI 2025, approximately 5 million of the permanent base will be going to academic affairs. And what we do is we do track all of the ending balances at each year, and then you can see the changes that do happen during the year that then become part of the permanent base allocation the following year. So of course, each divisional area did get a portion of our budget restored that we lost in 2021, but it was not a full restoration because we did not get the full 16 million restored as part of this year's budget. So each divisional area did receive at least 50% of what was reduced in 2021. And then we do track what the percentage of level A is for each of the divisional areas there. And even though it looks like academic affairs is lower, once the GI 2025 funding amount is posted, that percentage will be higher than the 67.58. Admin and finance, similar, and I may go through these a little bit quickly because it's the same methodology, and we will provide this presentation to staff assembly. So if you want to look at any more of the detail there. And then student affairs and enrollment management, and the same, that their GI 2025 funding has not been posted yet, but we do know what that amount will be based upon the percentage requirements. And then the percentage, as you can see, the negative adjustments in 2021, but then the restoration funding in 21-22. We do try to provide as much transparency and line item detail and track it historically so that we can do that comparative view. Technology services, they will be receiving some of the GI 2025 this year. And again, a big thank you to our technology services team and to our interim CIO, Robert Gwynn, and the team who have done a great job in helping to support all of these initiatives for all of our various divisions, and also to our technology liaisons that have been so important in supporting our desktop needs or remote technology needs. They've been on call and just have been a tremendous support. So big thank you to the technology services team as well. Advancement, again, similar analogy, Office of the President. And we have these discussions very openly at the cabinet level when decisions are needing to be made. And as we always do, we always try to look at the greater good and the importance of the work that is needing to happen to support our students and to support the instruction and our priorities. But we could not do all of what we do without our staff. And our staff are the backbone to helping make all of this happen operationally on campus. And just really important to remember to thank all of you for all the great work that you do. Athletics, this is level A for athletics. Athletics, this is just one portion of their revenue stream that goes into their budget. Athletics is also one of our 6 auxiliaries. So the Athletic Corporation budget has all of the revenue streams and all of the expenditures for our athletic program. And we do have a lot going on right now with searching for a new football coach. But again, want to thank Terry Toomey and his leadership and our colleagues in athletics. But this is just one portion or one slice of their budget revenues. They also receive IRA fees, ASI fees, and of course the gate receipts from all of the events. And in 2021, that was a very difficult year because we did not, could not have fans in our venues. So we've been working closely and helping to be able to provide some additional support through our HERF institutional funds that will be able to help with some of that from the prior year revenue loss. This is the consolidated athletic budget that we were referring to as far as all of the fund sources of university support that go to athletics, the level A, their benefits for their stateside employees, their allocation from the tuition reserve. There was a one-time financial aid contribution in 1920, and then the IRA fees and student body association fees. This chart in particular was developed in response to a request from our academic senate colleagues, but we do track our tenure and tenure track faculty hires and what we call tenure density. And with the GI 2025 funds that academic affairs will be receiving this year, that will really make a big difference in at least next year's academic year as far as the number of tenure track hires. And I'll defer to Provost Fu, but I think just roughly just an estimate, there could be a potentially about 10 tenure track hires next academic year, thanks to the GI 2025 funding. But I don't know, Dr. Fu, is there anything you would like to add?
Thank you, Vice President Easton. We plan to use the support of GI 2025 permanent funding to improve tenure density. Currently, we plan to hire five tenure track faculty, and these are in addition to the normal annual replacement of tenure track faculty. So it's not total 5 we hire. Each year we hire about 20 to 25 or even to 30, but most of these are replacement or retirement. And I also wanted to note that this last year we had a number of faculty departing or retiring, and we have started immediate hires this fall, but these faculty are not coming to us yet. They have not been hired yet. So although this year's tenure track faculty looks like shows a dip, but in the next fall, and we will see these numbers bouncing back very healthy. Thank you.
Thank you, Provost Fu, and thank you. Apologize for my 10. Thank you for correcting that. Our employee chart by divisional area, and there were no new positions in 1920 or 2021, either staff or MPP. That means incremental new. So if there was a retirement or resignation, those were backfilled. But of course, in 2021, very, very difficult year. So again, with the number of recruitments currently underway, and the fall 2021 data is a census data that's done by the Chancellor's Office on November 1st of every year. So next year, November 1st of 2022, we will see a significant difference, I think, there especially in the employee numbers once we get some of these positions filled. So, but this is the breakdown by divisional area, by employee group. How we ended the year 2021 as of 6/30/21. So this chart indicates where each of the divisions, where our final carry forward balances, as we refer to them as, for each divisional area. For academic affairs, this was really important and instrumental because there had been some prior years where there had not been, sorry, my lights just went off there, and not had this strong of a carry forward balance. And on June 30th, 2020, all carry forward balances were actually swept centrally to create a rainy day fund because of what we knew we were going to experience in 2021. Most of those funds went back to academic affairs and student affairs, appropriately so. So the balances that we had as of 6/30/21, each divisional area was able to keep their carry forward balance this year. And from academic affairs, a lot of that is they're coming from their joint doctoral programs, their doctoral programs in education and health and human services. So physical therapy, nursing, and our educational leadership. So it's important that those funds carry forward and continue to be able to be restricted for those purposes. So then the centrally managed funds, we have all of those balances. We are still have about a $5.2 million academic affairs deficit. We're hoping to put about $2 million towards that this year and be able to get that deficit down to zero in the next couple of years. We have some funds, like for example, our total return portfolio, that has to be used specifically for facility or deferred maintenance projects. Those are funds that are earned on the CSU endowment that each campus receives, in addition to the campus interest reserve. The compensation pool balance there is takes care of any kind of unforeseen comp increases that might be negotiated. The rainy day fund is now zeroed out, and then the tuition reserve, that was the prior year balance. And then utilities, we usually expend what our budget allocation is for the most part, and we'll be, again, looking to continue to build that fund balance for the central plant project. But that's how we ended the year as of 6/30/2021. And then we will open it up for questions. So I'll turn it back over to you, Deborah, or to Belinda. And I'll stop screen sharing if that's okay, so we can see everyone, and hope that wasn't too quick, but there's a lot of detail there. So thank you for your patience.
Thank you very much. The chat is now open. And so if you have a question, please put it in the chat. We will do our best to get to all the questions with time for answers. Whatever we don't get to, we will follow up. And as was mentioned earlier, the recording will be available as well as any necessary follow-up questions. And then once again, please recall that this is budget oriented only, so please keep your questions related to that. So far, no questions.
I saw one question pop up, Deborah, if it's okay. It wasn't a $5 million deficit in student affairs. It was academic affairs, and it was a multi-year carry forward deficit balance that under former President Dr. Castro's leadership with the provost, who's now our president, we said, this needs to be resolved. And so we put it into, we kind of swept the negative deficit and put forward that was in their operating budget, division budget, and put it into a separate reserve that academic affairs is working when surplus is available or carry forward balances. Academic affairs then is I'll say paying down that deficit. So we do hope to get that down in the next 2 years. And this was something that was from prior years that just kept accumulating. And from a budgetary standpoint, we needed to get academic affairs where they were on a zero-based budget so that we could actually see the operating budget and then the operating expenses without this negative carry forward balance that every college or school had to keep carrying forward every year. And Pam can correct me, but I believe we did that on June 30th of 19.
Yes. Was it 20 though, right, going into the pandemic?
It was either 6/30/19 or 6/30/20.
I'm sorry, everything of that is a blur, but
but that's the concept.
it was the last fiscal year, I believe.
Okay, so 6/30/20. We're on 22 here almost. So
Yeah.
I know the last 18 months for all of us, I know so hopefully that clarified that question.
It was 20.
Thank you. Thank you, President.
Yeah. And there's a second question from Dean Gonzalez.
Oh, so Dean Gonzalez, I hope I answered that.
The provost also is working on a new formula. And Provost Hu, maybe you can speak a little bit about that.
For this academic year, the level B budget formula at academic fairs is renewed. So we follow a simpler, more straightforward budget distribution system. Primarily, this refers to the academic schools and college budget distribution. It doesn't affect the offices under academic affairs, such as the graduate and or undergraduate studies office or faculty affairs. The academic affairs budget is very dynamic because primarily the hiring of part-time faculty changes by the FTI's target at the actual enrollment, and the change of class size. There's a lot of factors that would affect the budget. And we have different sources of funding on some state or CSU mandated programs and initiatives. For example, starting this academic year, we have a new TE in our book, ethnic studies. So we need to add a lot of sections and seats for ethnic studies courses. We have a special line of funding from the state to help cover those expenses. So that is not part of the regular general dollars budget, as Vice President Easton just presented. So because of the dynamic nature of the academic affairs budget, we are monitoring where we go and how the encumbrances and expenses are changing, at least on a monthly basis. So this is how the new formula will inform us and where our major costs are, and if we have challenges and where these areas of challenges are. We have a plan to fine-tune the level B budget and the academic fairs and try to improve it for the next year.
I think I saw a question, and Deborah, you can help me here as well, about the benefits pool. That yes, we do have now, and Pam can help me as well. We do have permanent base funding for the benefits pool to support the annual expense. In prior years, we had permanent base plus one time, but now we have all permanent base funding. So hopefully that addresses the question. And we'll continue to look at our benefit expense each year. And as any new funding becomes available in next year's budget, we'll continue to look at that so that that fund continues to be able to cover that expense, as well as the annual increases that we will see each year, which are sometimes 10 to 12% a year. So when you're looking at those kinds of amounts, 10% is a big number. It's 8 million. So we keep our eye on it. But Pam, if there's anything else you'd like to add.
No, that's correct. Like you said, in previous years, we've been relying on some of the one-time carry forwards. And we have finally got to the position now that we have permanent base, and that's where we want to stay and continue. And if we need to grow with that, we will.
Thank you for that question. I think there was also a question about staff.
Correct.
We're looking for outside jobs. Deborah, is that okay?
Please, yes, yes.
Thank
I'm
you.
trying not to speak over you.
Oh,
Thank
no,
you.
we're doing fine. Thank you. I just want to make sure I didn't miss anything. So thank you for that question. And of course, the study that is being commissioned by the CSU will, I think, help to guide as a whole system-wide how we can do a better job of supporting our staff and staff salaries and addressing the inversion issue. But we have been working with AVP Mendoza Miller, and at our most recent last month's manager and department chair forum, encouraging where budgetarily feasible. And again, this is, up to each division, but to reminder about all the different ways that if staff have taken on additional responsibilities because of either retirements or resignations, that we do have stipend options, IRP, to submit those classification requests. I know our HR team is receiving those, reviewing those as best we can, but we are encouraging that when there are those situations, because we know there's been quite a bit of transition across many areas on our campus, that we have those options that are available to managers, and to be consulting with their AVPs and deans, and to be identifying budgetary resources as part of this year's budget to be able to address those IRPs and stipends to help support the great work that's being done by our staff. Equity increases are a system-wide bargaining issue, and hopefully the survey that is being done by the outside consultant will help to guide that process. But I just want you to know, and I'll defer to the president, that we fully support this effort by the CSU. We fully support that this needs to be taken a look at, and we fully support the issue of needing to address equity increases for our staff, but it is tied to budget, and those will be part of those important conversations that happen in the spring relative to advocacy as part of that effort. So it's something we are very in tune to, and know it's a very high priority for the CSU. And I'll turn it over to the president, please.
Yeah, and I think what you said is spot on, Vice President Easton. It's tied to budget that is tied to the legislature and to the governor as well, specifically. So that's why the study that will analyze both the staff and the faculty salaries will be very important moving on. But yeah, we absolutely support this.
Do you have another question?
Let's see, I think I see one about revenues from our auxiliaries.
Correct.
So yes, the 2021 year was very difficult for our auxiliaries, not having students on campus that affected our dining and housing areas considerably. No Save Mart Center events. So in particular, our association auxiliary took a real heavy hit from loss of those revenues. Through our HERF institutional funds, we were able to, which all campuses did, be able to support some of the loss of the dining and housing revenues and the refunds that were given to students when the pandemic hit, but it did not in any way make our auxiliary whole. So this year is much better, and we're actually full in housing, which is great, and had a wait list this year. So again, that really helps dining. And so to have our students back on campus and faculty and staff does help our auxiliary operations. So we appreciate, we've got all of you working with catering and patronizing our retail dining operations. And we're looking forward to the opening of the new Resnick Student Union next fall, where we're going to be able to have additional new dining concepts in addition to the ones we currently have, which will really expand that portfolio. So I want to give a shout out to our Director of Dining, Megan Sarantos, and Dr. Stewart for their collaboration, and looking forward to what we have ahead in the new Resnick Student Union. So, but fortunately, student fees were not, that revenue was not impacted. So for operations like our Student Rec Center and USU, fortunately, there was not a revenue impact there. So again, we're just really grateful and appreciative to be able to have the in-person activity and in-person courses that we did this semester and next spring.
I see several thank yous. So again, we do appreciate your time, Vice President Easton. I don't see any more questions so far, and we are coming to time, about 9 minutes left. Give a few more minutes. Anyone else have any questions you'd like to put in the chat?
We just really, again, want to say thank you to Staff Assembly for helping to coordinate this and facilitate this. The partnership is very important, and want to again thank all of you for your resiliency and dedication and commitment to the work here at Fresno State. And I'll turn it over to the president for closing remarks.
Yeah, I want to thank Belinda for everything she does to keep the staff assembly going. I know that it's a lot of work, but we truly appreciate your keeping this together for everyone, for our university as well. And then I also want to thank Deb for all of her assistance today. I know that we corresponded earlier, and I appreciate seeing you on screen, as it were. And lastly, I want to thank all of you. I've always said it that the university works because you are there. We move forward together because you are there, pouring your heart and soul into everything we do, from the student success aspect to graduating these incredible individuals who then become part of our society as leaders that we all need. So with that, I wish you a really happy holidays, Merry Christmas to you if you celebrate that, and I hope you all celebrate. You all are healthy, and we look forward to the new year, hopefully with better news on the pandemic and things like that. So thank you for everything you do.
And I'd like to thank Vice President A. Stone, of course, our president, and Dr. Fu and Pam Lewis for being here with us this morning and providing all this great information. You know, we're always, we see numbers, but we're never really sure how it ties back in. So it's really important to be able to see it and see it, how it's broken down. So this is really important to, I know, myself and many others. So thank you very much for being with us today and sharing this. For all you participants who have logged in today, or those of you who know someone who wanted to and wasn't able to make it today, we are recording this session. It does take a while, as you know, to download, but once it gets downloaded, we will put it up on our website. You feel free to go on and take a look at it, and let your colleagues know. If they have any questions, they can always email me, and I will do our best to get an answer for you. And with that, we also have Red Friday that is tomorrow. So join us out there tomorrow. We have, it's Arts and Humanity, and I love to hear them. They bring out their choir and they sing a few songs. And so join us tomorrow with that. And then of course, next week is a holiday party at the Save Mart Center. That's always a lot of fun. We've got a decorating contest going on. We have a chocolate bar, we have dancers, we have a DJ. It's gonna be an amazing time. So I hope you all join us out there next week. And, you know, we don't always get time back. And in this case, we are giving you 6 minutes of back in time. So take some time for you. Sometimes you just need to take that 5 minutes, shut your computer off, and just meditate. Meditate for 5 minutes, pull yourself together so you can finish off the rest of the day. That is so important because we do for everyone else all the time. Our students, our colleagues, our families, our friends. And we always forget us. So we are giving you 5 minutes of your life back. So turn off your computer. I encourage everyone, don't go back to your desk. Don't look at an email. Take those 5 minutes and just refresh and remember you, and take some time for a 5 minute of enjoyment of just peace and quiet. So again, thank you all for being with us today, and we'll hopefully see you all tomorrow at Red Friday. Bye-bye.